So you remember back in the day when we had to pick and choose what files we could save on our memory cards? It was like one season of Madden and it was all over. Well, as we've gone along here, the retro scene has continued to innovate and just completely upgrade all these different accessories and experiences we had back then. And there was one that I've been keeping an eye on for a little while now, and it's mostly just significant updates to memory cards for these older systems. But the PS2 one really intrigued me, especially after a recent update that they posted for their MemCard Pro 2. It looks very fancy, obviously, as a screen, SD card, the whole thing, but that's not necessarily what pulled me in. No. When they started to include not only the PS1 and the PS2, but the PlayStation 3, I was like, all right, this actually kind of starts to turn into a no-brainer for people using even their PlayStation 3 through backwards compatibility. And we're going to go over that feature here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. Now, we can see the box here as I did film an entire unboxing for it, the MemCard Pro 2. You can see at the bottom, it is designed for the PlayStation 2. However, it will work for PS1 games. Obviously, those work on the PS2 anyway, but it can essentially create memory cards for either system. It does load up an SD card, and it connects to Wi-Fi, which sounds incredibly unnecessary, but as I used it, it's actually really cool to have just as an option. Now, when I opened it up, there's not a lot to it. We do have a little manual that basically shows you where to go to view the PDF. And then we have the memory card in actually some pretty good closed cell foam. It's protected well, and it makes sense considering on the front here, we do have an OLED display. This is a 128 by 64 pixels. In my time of using it, everything on there is very, very legible. The screen is bright, and it will dim over time. Underneath of that screen, you do have two buttons on the left and right. And then on the front of the memory card, you have a micro USB input, as well as a slot for an SD card. I did prepare a 64 gigabyte micro SD card, which is basically just formatting and then moving a few files over so that it can upgrade the firmware, which started immediately when I turned the PlayStation 2 on. It only took like 4 or 5 minutes maybe, and you sat there and watched a bar fill up. But the 64 gigabyte card here gives me a significant amount of space. Essentially, as they detail it, every 1 gigabyte that you have for storage equates to 128 different memory cards, which means that then this memory card would be able to provide over 8,000 different memory cards as they're all stored completely here and you toggle through them. So that means that I could, in essence, have one memory card, multiple memory cards for every single game in the PlayStation 2's library. And in fact, that's one of the selling points. Now, I did decide to just have my PS2 here completely stock, so I removed the free McBoot memory card that would have gone alongside of this, mostly because I wanted to show what the overall experience would be for most people who might pick this up just for their physical PlayStation 2 library. Now, when you do have the Memory Card Pro 2 inserted and you have the OLED display on the front, you can start to connect it to your Wi-Fi, and in order to do that, you do have to access the menu by pressing and holding down both buttons, and you can go through the Wi-Fi setup. I had to connect it with my phone, at which point I then pointed it in the direction of my router, and then I'm able to log in after setting all of that up and connecting it with a web browser. At that time, you can just go through and really see all your different save files, your different memory cards that you've created, and kind of move them around and change different settings so that you'll have kind of a default startup. Maybe there's a certain memory card you want to always be chosen when the system turns on, or you want to go through and sort your different saves and different memory cards and files. There is a lot here to do, and it seems like too much almost for a memory card, especially on the PlayStation 2, but it's like, hey, for people who are really big fans of backing up your saves, I don't know, that seems kind of important, especially with some of these RPGs that are on the PS2 and you end up spending 50, 60, 100 hours in them. I think it's pretty nice to have. And they're also working on things like cloud save, so it'll automatically back up your saves when your system is on and it writes to the card. Like I said, this seems like next level stuff. I also like the use of the OLED display where it will show which game you're playing, and in fact, because it's able to detect that, which this is kind of a recent update, by the way, to where you put the game in and then the memory card will sort of detect it using the game ID and then change over to maybe a memory card that is specifically set up for it, which means you don't have to try to figure out, okay, which memory card am I using here for, say, Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness, and then you also have to ask yourself, why did I put Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness in the PS2? But either way, essentially, it'll switch over to that memory card automatically as you cycle through your games, so it's very, very convenient. They have mentioned that it also works with some of the homebrew stuff, so if you have a loader for a hard drive and you just have all your ISO images stored there, it can still pick those up and has compatibility with it. In order to make a new memory card, you just sort of press and hold down in this case, the right button here, and after a time it'll tell you to release, and then it will format a new memory card and will then assign it to a different game that you have in there. So you really will never run out of space, because not only do you have that, but then you can cycle through like 8 to 10 sub memory cards. So yeah, you can store plenty of seasons of Madden. You don't have to fight over the memory card and who has which season loaded anymore. It is kind of unfortunate that at this time, to cycle through memory cards manually, you kind of have to just keep pressing the button over and over again to maybe get to one that's 10, 11, 12 memory cards deep. You can change them in real time with the web browser, and this was kind of a cool thing to sort of use, as it was pretty responsive. I mean, it was seriously, you'd click a few buttons on the web browser and that would happen immediately. But believe it or not, even though all this stuff seems pretty cool, and yeah, it goes into their slogan of this is the last memory card you'll ever have to buy, this isn't necessarily what made me go, okay, I should get this, it makes sense. It has to do more with the PlayStation 3. So if you have a fully backwards compatible PlayStation 3, you know that you can plug in your PS2 or PS1 memory cards to it if you have a certain adapter, which unfortunately at this time has gotten more and more expensive. Usually you see them anywhere from $60, $70, even $80 for an official one, as there are some, we'll say, more sketchy third-party ones that are out there. But with a recent update, this just plugs in, and when I saw this and it was up on X, I was like, yep, that's it. I'll pick it up, because it eliminates the need for that adapter, and technically this is like $30 cheaper than those adapters floating around on eBay and Amazon. So the way this works, after you have, of course, your PS2 memory cards loaded up, or PS1, you plug it into your PlayStation 3 simply by using that micro USB port on the front of the memory card. And when you're going to plug it in, you press and hold down the right button. It will then kick you into a mode that asks if you want it to be a mass storage device or the PlayStation 3 adapter. You pick the PS3 adapter and it immediately pops up on the PlayStation 3, so you can grab your save files from there, or you can technically play right off of this. It just is emulating that little adapter between the PS2 memory card and the PlayStation 3 USB port. And this can happen in real time, so you can cycle through, and the way it works is it shows almost as it being hot swapped, like we would normally, where we pop them out and drop a new one in, and you can cycle through them completely on your PS3. And like I said, this to me was the aha moment. I said, well, okay, that's the functionality I was looking for, really, with everything else involved here. It's pretty cool that this is something they've been able to add over time, and they seem to update this product like every other week, it feels like, whether it's bug fixes or just legitimately new features like this. So yeah, I would fully recommend this as somebody who is, maybe you're really looking to get back into PS2 or PS1, or maybe you picked up a backwards compatible PlayStation 3 and you're kind of going between all these different systems. This is a really cool device to use for backing up saves or moving saves around. And some of the features that they keep discussing, whether it's cloud backups, is again, it seems incredibly innovative for a PlayStation 2 memory card, but hey, why not at this point? So I know they also have memory cards for the GameCube, and now I'm thinking about picking one of those up after seeing what they've been able to do with this one. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. I just wanted to go over it because I thought it was just a really cool thing to see how far apparently we've come with the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 memory card, now with, well, soon to be with cloud saves and connecting to your router so you can check it out in real time on your web browser. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.